a sun-dappled corner of a vast, ancient forest, lived a donkey named Dusty. Dusty was known throughout the woods for his incredible strength. He could haul fallen logs, clear paths after a storm, and carry heavy loads of berries for the winter pantry. All the animals admired his power, but Dusty, for all his might, was a bit clumsy, and not the sharpest thinker. He often found himself stuck in muddy patches he hadn't noticed, or lost on paths he thought he knew. He wished he had a bit more cleverness to match his brawn. High above, in the hollow of a giant oak tree, lived a wise old owl named Professor Hoot. His eyes, like twin amber moons, had seen countless seasons come and go. He knew the secret language of the stars, the rhythm of the wind, and the location of every hidden spring in the forest. He could solve the trickiest riddles and offer advice that untangled any problem. However, Professor Hoot was small and not very strong. He often wished he could move the heavy branches that blocked the best views from his home or reach the juiciest berries on the highest, thinnest twigs. One blustery autumn afternoon, a fierce wind tore through the forest. It howled and raged, and with a final, mighty gust, it snapped a huge branch from the oldest tree. The branch came crashing down, landing right across the main path to the sunstone clearing, the only place where the forest's special healing herbs grew. The smaller animals chattered nervously. The badgers couldn't dig under it. The squirrels couldn't leap over its massive width. The path was completely blocked. Dusty, the donkey, arrived, confident as ever. "Don't you worry, everyone," he brayed, flexing his strong shoulders. "I'll have this cleared in a jiffy." He lowered his head and pushed against the colossal branch. He strained, his muscles bulging, his hooves digging into the soft earth. He pushed and he pushed, but the branch was wedged tightly between two large rocks. It wouldn't budge an inch. Exhausted and a little embarrassed, Dusty had to admit defeat. His strength, for once, wasn't enough. Datavening as the moon cast long shadows through the trees, Professor Hoot glided down from his oak. He landed softly on a log near the defeated donkey. "Ahem," he coughed gently. "It seems brute force has met its match." Dusty sighed, his long ears drooping. "It's no use, Professor. It's just too heavy and stuck." The owl tilted his head, his sharp eyes examining the problem from every angle. He flew up, circled the branch, and landed again. "Strength is not the only tool in the box, my dear Dusty. Sometimes, you need a different key to open a stubborn lock." "Look closely," Professor Hoot said, pointing with his wing. "The branch isn't just heavy, it's balanced like a seesaw on that flat stone in the middle. And see that thick vine hanging from the tree above. If you were to pull on that vine, it would lift the heavier end of the branch upwards." Dusty's eyes widened as he followed the owl's gaze. He hadn't noticed the vine or the pivot point. It was a brilliant observation, but how do I reach the vine? "It's too high for me to grab," Dusty said, looking up. "That," the owl hooted, a twinkle in his eye, "is where I come in." With a few powerful beats of his wings, Professor Hoot flew up to the thick vine. He gripped it with his talons and, with all his might, pulled it down lower and lower until it was just within Dusty's reach. "Now, Dusty, your turn." It got that out. Dusty took the end of the vine firmly in his teeth. He backed away slowly, pulling with his steady, powerful strength. The vine grew taut. As Dusty pulled, a creaking sound filled the air. The heavy end of the branch began to lift off the ground. Just as Professor Hoot had predicted, it rose higher and higher, pivoting on the flat stone. "A little more," chirped the owl. With one final, mighty heave, Dusty pulled the branch clear off the rock. It swung to the side of the path with a loud thud, leaving the way to Sunstone Clearing completely open. A cheer erupted from the watching animals. They rushed forward, amazed. Dusty felt a thrill he had never known before. It wasn't just the satisfaction of moving the branch. It was the magic of doing it so easily, so smartly. He looked at Professor Hoot with newfound respect. "Professor, that was amazing. Your eyes saw what my muscles couldn't." The owl puffed out his chest proudly, "And your strength accomplished what my wings could not." "It seems we make quite a team, you and I, from that day on." The donkey and the owl were inseparable. They became the forest's official problem solvers. When a rock slide blocked the river, Professor Hoot would map out the weakest points, and Dusty would push the stones aside. When a family of rabbits was trapped by a flood, the owl would spot the safest high ground, and the donkey would carry the little ones to safety. Dusty's strength, guided by the owl's wisdom, could accomplish anything. They proved to everyone in the forest that true power isn't just about being the strongest or the smartest, but about knowing when to work together, combining different talents to achieve what seems impossible alone. And the forest was a better, safer place for it. Thank you for watching. Have you ever heard the old saying, "A donkey that has seen an owl will never bray again"? It sounds a bit strange, right? Like something out of an old wives' tale. But behind this peculiar phrase lies a fascinating legend. A story that weaves together the worlds of two very different creatures. The humble, hard-working donkey and the mysterious wise owl. Today, we're going to dive deep into this forgotten piece of folklore, uncovering its origins, its meaning, and what it can teach us about fear, wisdom, and the unknown. So, grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's explore the enchanting legend of the donkey and the owl. Our story begins in a time long past, in a quaint little village nestled at the foot of a dense, ancient forest. In this village lived a farmer and his trusty donkey. This wasn't just any donkey. He was known throughout the village for his powerful, earth-shaking bray. Every morning, as the first rays of sun kissed the horizon, the donkey would let out a mighty hee-haw that served as the village's natural alarm clock. It was a sound of routine, of a new day beginning, a sound so familiar that the villagers barely noticed it anymore. The donkey, for his part, was quite proud of his voice. He believed his bray was the strongest, the most important sound in the entire world. It announced his presence, his strength, and his readiness for a hard day's work. But just beyond the village, in the shadowy depths of the ancient forest, lived another creature, a great old owl. This owl was the keeper of the night. His world was one of silence, moonlight, and secrets whispered on the wind. His call was a soft, haunting hoo-hoo, a sound that blended seamlessly with the rustling leaves and the chirping crickets. The owl was a symbol of wisdom and mystery. He had seen countless seasons come and go, watched generations of villagers live their lives, and he understood the delicate balance of the world in a way the boisterous donkey never could. He represented the quiet knowledge that comes not from shouting, but from listening. One fateful evening, as twilight painted the sky in shades of purple and orange, the farmer had to venture into the edge of the forest to gather some fallen firewood. His loyal donkey, of course, was right by his side. The donkey had never been this deep into the woods at dusk before. The familiar fields and paths of his daily life gave way to towering trees whose branches seemed to weave a dark canopy overhead. The air grew cooler and strange. New sounds filled the donkey's long ears. He felt a little uneasy, a shiver of the unknown running down his spine. The world he knew, the world of sunshine and open fields, was fading behind him. As darkness fell completely, the forest transformed. It was no longer just a collection of trees. It was a living, breathing entity. Shadows danced and played tricks on the eye. The rustle of a small animal in the undergrowth sounded like a lurking predator. The snap of a twig made the donkey jump. His confidence began to waver. Where was the familiar world he ruled with his powerful bray? Here, in the heart of the night, his voice seemed small and insignificant. He felt an instinct to bray, to shatter the silence and reassert his presence, but something held him back. And then, it happened. From a high branch of an ancient oak tree, two enormous, luminous eyes opened, glowing like golden coins in the darkness. They were mesmerizing, and they were fixed directly on the donkey. A moment later, a low, resonant hoo-hoo echoed through the trees. It wasn't loud, not like the donkey's bray, but it carried a weight, an ancient authority that seemed to vibrate in the very air. The sound was calm, questioning, and filled with the wisdom of 1,000 nights. The donkey froze. He had never seen or heard anything like it. This was the owl, the silent sovereign of the night. In that single moment, the donkey's world was turned upside down. Staring into those wise, unblinking eyes, he felt a profound sense of awe and a little bit of fear. It wasn't the kind of fear you feel when facing a predator. It was a deeper, more existential kind of shock. He suddenly realized how vast and mysterious the world truly was. He had spent his entire life believing his loud bray was the center of the universe, the most important sound there was. But here, in the owl's silent kingdom, his bray meant nothing. In fact, it would have been an unwelcome intrusion, a clumsy disruption of the night's delicate symphony. The owl's quiet presence spoke volumes, more than his loudest hee-haw ever could. The donkey understood, in a flash of insight, that there were other worlds, other truths, beyond his own limited experience. The owl, with its silent gaze and haunting call, represented all the things he didn't know, all the mysteries that lay hidden in the shadows. He saw his own arrogance, his own noisy self-importance, and felt a deep sense of humility. He realized that true strength wasn't always about being the loudest. Sometimes it was about knowing when to be silent, when to listen, and when to respect the unknown. The encounter was brief, just a few moments in the deep, dark woods, but it changed the donkey forever. When the farmer finished gathering his wood and led the donkey back to the village, something was different. The next morning, the sun rose. As it always did, the villagers stirred, expecting to hear the familiar day-starting bray, but there was only silence. The donkey stood in his stable, watching the dawn, but no sound came from his throat. He had seen the owl. He had glimpsed a world far greater and more mysterious than his own. His proud, loud bray now seemed foolish, almost embarrassing. How could he shout his own importance when he knew what silent wisdom the night held? And so, the legend was born. The story spread from village to village. A donkey that has seen an owl will never bray again. It became a proverb, a piece of folk wisdom passed down through generations. But what does it really mean for us? This story isn't just about a donkey and an owl. It's a metaphor for a profound human experience. It's about that moment when we encounter something so far beyond our understanding that it fundamentally changes our perspective. It's the moment an arrogant person is humbled, the moment a loudmouth is silenced by wisdom, the moment we realize the universe is much bigger than our own little corner of it. Think about it. The donkey represents our ego, our everyday certainties, our belief that our way of seeing things is the only way. We go through life, braying our opinions, our accomplishments, our noise. We measure importance by volume. But the owl represents a deeper knowledge, a spiritual or intellectual awakening. It's that book, that piece of music, that conversation, or that breathtaking view from a mountaintop that suddenly shows us how small we are and how much we have yet to learn. It's a humbling experience, and it can be a bit frightening, but it's also incredibly liberating. When you have a seen the owl moment, your old certainties crumble. The things you used to shout about no longer seem so important. You start to listen more and talk less. You develop a new kind of confidence, one that isn't based on being loud, but on a quiet understanding of your place in the grand scheme of things. You begin to appreciate the silence, the mystery, the things you don't know. Like the donkey, you lose the desire to bray. Not because you've lost your voice, but because you've found something more valuable. Humility and a thirst for true wisdom. This ancient story reminds us to stay curious and open-minded. It encourages us to step out of our comfortable routines and venture into our own dark forests, the realms of knowledge and experience we have yet explored. It tells us that true growth doesn't come from reinforcing what we already know, but from confronting what we don't. So, the next time you feel absolutely certain about something, remember the donkey, and maybe, just maybe, go looking for an owl. You might be surprised by the profound silence that follows. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into folklore and meaning. I hope this story gave you something to think about. If you enjoyed this exploration, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. What did you think of the legend? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious. Your time is coming. Keep believing. Keep fighting. Don't just watch. Go out and prove them wrong. Thank you for being part of the journey. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.